Okay, so I'm changing things up a little bit on the instruction today as we start, and I know it might eat into some of your guys' time. So if you feel comfortable moving ahead without guided practice for a few minutes, please feel free to do so. But I just want to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of instructions if you want to do something that's a little bit of an alternative. So, I made a mess yesterday. So you might be thinking to yourself, like Mrs. Phillips, it's a little frustrating because all I have is a portrait of my person. Let's do the Danielle Ortega one. Marco, hopefully hopefully this will help you out a little bit, right? So I'm gonna have to put mine over like this. So we understand where the oval is, right? And you're gonna be transferring it over to here. Now, I'll just be honest with you. It's a little bit difficult sometimes to do portrait work. Portrait work is difficult and it's hard, especially when my camera is autofocusing like a billion times. So really kind of focusing on just the outside detail of the face is something that you can go with. And not really focusing so much on the anatomy of it because you could take it into a cartoonish kind of way if you want to. You could take it to a realistic portion if you want to. It's totally up to you guys. But instead of like, say, for example, if you picked a portrait that's head slightly tilted in some way, your guideline's still going to be somewhat the same. So you're going to draw the face at a slight oval, and you see how the line work goes this way? And then his line goes down this way. It's actually probably a little bit not as oval. Trying to see if no, I did pretty fairly accurately. And then the line straight down the middle. So your guidelines would still be the same. The nose would be here, the mouth would be here, his eyes would be here, and his hairline still technically should be here. But instead of his hairline starting in the middle, it starts way over here. So once you've got your basically your kind of layout of where things would be, you can go in and just start drawing what you see. This is an example of observational drawing. If you're not doing this block coloring like mine, like this one, and all you have is a portrait, just honestly start going in and drawing what you see. Don't be super stressed out about getting a completely accurate depiction of who your person is. Like this project is not like how close can I get my person to be just like the icon. That's not the point of this project. It's to get whatever type of stylized version of it you can possibly get on there. If you want to do something realistic, you can. But the thing is that you want to make sure that your lines and stuff are, somewhat representative of basically who the person looks like. So I know that the forehead, here's where the line kind of crosses. It's off to the center is where his point at, not the center point, but basically the point of his hair. So I'm going to start it over here and just literally draw a line over here. He's got a very round face. So his face for me probably is a little bit too oval. But just go in and start drawing what you see. And then his hair goes out to here, and it kind of curls up a little bit. And then it goes up to the center point where his hairline is. And then it kind of goes back out again. And you're just basically drawing basically what you see. See, it's not a total like, oh my gosh, it looks exactly like him. But just get something that you feel is something close to what he looks like, right? He's got a lot more hair on the right side than he does on the left because of the angle and the tilt of his basically his face, right? So what's the next deciding characteristic that I kind of want to get? Maybe his ears. Now I know that the top of his ears line up with the outside edge of his brow right here, and that the bottom of his ears usually goes where his nose is at. So if you want to draw a faint line out this way, then you know that his ear comes out at least out to this line here. So just draw a little curve over the ear. There's one ear. And then the same thing with this one. His ear over here is going to go up a little bit into his hairline. You're not going to see it. Now, I'm just drawing the line work. I'm not adding any detail or any type of shading at all. I'm just drawing the outline edges of his face. You can totally do that. That's totally fine. So I'm going to build from the mouth up. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw He has a little bit of a bow to his mouth a little bit, right? Now, this picture is not supposed to be completely accurate of the person. It doesn't have to be. So if you want to draw the outside edge of his nose, the tip of his nose will be basically kind of right here, kind of curves up. And he's got a very big, basically curve to his nose, and it goes in and it goes up towards basically where his bridge would be. And you got to get his mustache. It's not a complete, like, oh my gosh, Liz, this is a great depiction. Just draw the best that you can. And he's got a distinguishable little mole right there. But just give me a little something, right? And then he's got very prominent glasses. So draw his glasses. They're very round. If you want it to be slightly stylized, that's fine. And I'm realizing like his glasses are not big enough. They go up and they go back this way and they go back this way, right? I'm not doing anything super like, oh my gosh, it looks just like the person. I'm just going in there and just sketching. This is supposed to be fun. Just draw any way you want to. So the difficulty part about doing somebody that's basically at a sideways angle is that things are going to not really appear to be 100% like accurate. So like his neckline's going to go down this way, and you might be thinking that's kind of weird, but then you kind of got to go up to where his collar kind of goes out like that, and then it goes back up behind him, and his shoulder goes off to the side, and then his shoulder's way up here by his ear, and it kind of goes off this way. But the more kind of detail you add to it, and then you add like a sharp no, it goes out at the ear. And then you color this in basically to kind of give you a headlight. And then you can even go back if you're like, no, it's really light right there. I'm not going to draw the edge of that base. So I'm just going to go in and maybe do a little bit of the edge to kind of give it. And then you can go in and do the eye work. And then you can go in and do his eye. And then go back in here and do another eye. See what I'm saying? Like you don't have to, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It doesn't have to look exactly like the person. And then he's got a little bit of a brow right there and the brow right there. And then just go back in with the Sharpie and Sharpie it. It literally doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, it's a mirror image of the person that I did. Right? So I know this is an expo marker because I can't find a Sharpie right now. So I'm just going to go back in and really just Sharpie the heck out of it. And all I'm going to do is Sharpie the lines. And that's it. Right? And this could just be the person. That's it. It doesn't have to be completely 100% like, oh my gosh, it looks just like the person. Right? And then he's got the lapel over here, and then the back of his uniform. And this is a little bit more. And then it has basically a like curve out here of what the lapel looks like. Right? And then there's a big block coloring here. You go back in and you color it. So my person doesn't look exactly like him. That's okay. And then you can go back in and add the creases if you want to, right? Does it look exactly like the person? No. But that's okay. I kind of get the gist of who it is, right? I'm like, he's not that angry, Liz. Like, why are you making him like totally angry? And then he has a little bit of a shadow line where, you know, underneath is. And then if you want, you can go back in and add a little bit of maybe a shadow line right there if you want to. But it might make it look a little weird. And then you can go back in and color the hair black if you want to, or you can leave it completely open. Once your Sharpie lines are there, then you just go back in and you erase all of your guiding lines. See how just some simple lines can really kind of get you to where you want to go? You don't want to press too hard. Right? Sorry, I just got to check the chat, make sure that I'm not. And there I go. It's just a really simplistic version of the guy. Does it look exactly like him? No. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like a spot on image, like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe it. Like, if it looks somewhat resemblance of him, that's all you're really kind of looking for. And then if you want to do in some like highlights in his hair, you can kind of go in and do some bubble work. If you want to do a little bit of bubble work and then black everything out except for the things that you bubbled in to give it a highlight, or you can just leave it blank like that. Probably should have made his face a little bit rounder. That's okay. So this is something I just really felt like was really important for you guys to see. Now I'm going to hop back over to my John Lennon picture really quick so I can continue on with this one a little bit more. But like I said, I don't want you guys to feel as though like, man, my person doesn't look exactly like the person. How long, like type in the chat, how long did it take me to make this picture? Like what? Like 10 minutes maybe? So if you want to do it a little bit more slowly, you could get this kind of look into it. It's not a perfect image, but it's just a stylized version of it. Don't feel as though it has to be a copy and pasted image. Please don't feel like that. And if you just want to do the outline of the person and not do tons of detail, you could do that too. That's the difference between this assignment and this assignment. This one's, you're getting a slightly more realistic version of it, especially when we go back in and we start to see a little bit more highlight. So I'm going to start on this one at the top of the head today to do a little bit of hair work before we go. 15 minutes? Yeah, about 10, 15. So you guys have like a week to do this. Take your time. Outline it out. If you don't like it, make sure you draw very lightly so you can erase where you need to. And even if you don't, like just go in and do another final line like I did. I went in and made some mistakes and then because once you go back in after everything's been eked in, guess what? All that stuff gets erased. And then you can't even tell it was there to begin with if your lines are light enough. Right? Da-da-da. Is this person exactly like the person? No, but I think it's a pretty good likeness to it, to where if I was like, hey, is this Daniel Ortega? You could be like, yeah, I can see that. But if you want to do a cartoon version of it or character, you could do that as well. I'm giving you tons of options. The only one I'm guiding you practice through is this one. So if you feel like this one is too difficult for you, please feel free not to do it. You could do it in a different style. It's totally okay. That's why I wanted to stop and give you another option if you wanted to do something a little bit more, loose and fun and you're super frustrated. Don't get frustrated. It's okay. This is an abstract piece, right? Abstract background mainly. Okay, so I want to work on this one for about 5 minutes or about 3 more minutes. For those of you that might be still following along with me. I'm going to go ahead and do the outline of his hair for you guys. So I know that the center point that I added was right above basically his left eye. It's a little bit it's a little bit right of it. So here's his right eye, and technically I guess should be over here. So I'm going to bring it over this way because it should be slightly right of center. And if a little bit of your outline gets erased or your color, that's fine. You can go back in with a little bit of watercolor later before you lay down your ink and fix up parts on your watercolor. That's what I'm going to do because I still have a lot of visible white space. Just want to make sure you do it before you put ink on there because the ink will bleed. So I know that his part curves at an angle. So I'm going to put his center part a little left of center. The center's right here. So it's a little left of center. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to go up and just organically kind of follow the outline of his head. Now, it's just like I said before, they called the Beatles the mop top for a reason because it looks like they were wearing mops. Now it kind of goes down a little bit and then it lines the end where his basically ends here is a little bit where his lips are at. So I'm going to go probably here, bubble it out, and then go back in and then kind of follow it to a point. And then that's when his shoulder kind of takes off to the right. So this is going to be a lot of darkening on the right side. So his glasses are here. The shadow line basically kind of follows the curve of his glasses. And then it goes to a point here. But then I get this organic highlight on his cheek that I'm going to outline here. And so everything else that I shade in is going to be basically around that bubble. It's going to look weird, and that's okay. But basically everything from this point down to this point up is going to be shaded in. If you want to just go in and lightly kind of shade it, you guys can. But now that I have the outside edge of this hair, I know where I have to go in. Now up here, I have some highlights. I'm like, oh, I cannot miss these highlights because that's what makes his hair look really super shiny. So make sure you have an area up here where you can really kind of go in and add a little bit of a highlight. And it looks like a squiggly shape, but all that means is that when you go in and you color this in with the Sharpie, you're going to leave this squiggly shape here completely blank. And it might be hard to see, so you might want to rotate your picture a little bit. And then he's got another big bright highlight right here along the curve of his hair. And just make sure those are left completely blank. And then you're going to go back in with everything else and Sharpie it in. And it's the same thing on the other side as well. But we'll get to that tomorrow because I know we're running out of time. So, if you guys have any questions, I will be in office hours today at 2 p.m. Please feel free to stop by. Office hours are located in Google Classroom.